Good afternoon, friends. Good day whenever you're tuning into this little podcast or video. The gospel this Sunday didn't isn't the primary source for this particular topic being front of mind for me. The concept of compassion, but turning to the Sunday gospel, I thought, wow, there's another instance of Jesus' compassion moving him to some action. I was with Patty Stroman. I was on Monday addressing a group of teachers at Holy Family High School in Victoria, and we were sharing with them our experience of living and working and moving forward in a diverse community, particularly around racial equity, etc., and inviting them. They're in a particularly non-diverse community, frankly, racially, but inviting them in whatever and however they do experience diversity in that community, whether it's socioeconomic or whatever it might be. Within that context, we talked about compassion and what role that plays in our receiving the other. Tomorrow, our own teachers will be having a professional day, in-service day, I think we used to call it, and compassion is part of the discussion. So in any case, I've been given some thought and trying to put some words around compassion and Jesus' compassion, obviously, as our source of our compassion, more than a model of our compassion, really the spirit of Jesus moving us, animating us with deep, true compassion as Christians. The Sunday Gospel, you will know when we turn to it, is just another instance of Jesus of curing a demoniac, someone who was possessed by a demon, reaching beyond, going out from his world, crossing boundaries in order to draw someone back into the community. Pope Francis writes about compassion. And he affirms what I think is a very healthy understanding and a whole understanding of compassion. That compassion is not the same as sympathy or empathy, of kind of feeling with or feeling the pain of another person. What makes compassion unique is that it moves us to some action. And so there are lots of places in the gospel where Jesus has compassion on the one who comes to him, or the one he goes out to, or the one in the parables. I think of the parable of the prodigal son, or the story of the 10 lepers, the healing of a leper, the feeding of the 5,000. He's moved by compassion, then does something to alleviate their suffering. He just doesn't suffer with them. That's huge. That's very important. But in that suffering, then, he's moved to do something to help them, or Pope Francis wrote a beautiful homily addressing new cardinals in the church. This was in the year 2015. And he always writes homilies in threes, but he talked about compassion, marginalization, and reinstatement. That Jesus goes out with compassion, in compassion to the marginalized in order to reinstate them, to bring them back into the community. That's not a bad, that's a very good kind of standard for the Christian in terms of imitating the movement, the kind of spiritual movement of Jesus. Moved by compassion, he goes out. He doesn't wait for the marginalized to come to him. He goes out to them, like the father who runs down the road to kiss his prodigal son, his son who's coming home. He doesn't wait for the kid, he goes out to the kid. To go out to the marginalized in order to bring them back to the table, in order to bring them back into the circle, in order to bring them back into the community. And so it is that our own reflection here at Ascension is critical in our whole discussion of equity and inclusion. Because if indeed we profess to be an inclusive community, and we do, and we are, then we have to look at what will sustain us in deepening the fulfillment of that mission. And so it is for reflecting with our teachers tomorrow as our scholars come back into the classroom. Our kindergarten through second graders are back this week. Our third graders will be coming. Third through fifth will be coming next week. How are we receiving them? Because we know that they are not the same people they were a year ago. Wow, it's been almost a year that we had to say goodbye to them with the onset of the pandemic. They are not the same as they were a year ago. They are not the same as they were come last summer when we experienced all of the unrest in our community around racial issues after the killing of George Floyd. They are not the same after they have witnessed everything in the news that we have witnessed. How do we receive them and honor who they are? We're certainly concerned about reading and writing and arithmetic, reading and math. Reading and math are core to educational excellence, right? But how are we receiving them, and how are we caring for the rest of them? How are we loving them as they return? How are we respecting and listening for how they have changed over the last many months? Now, certainly we've been in touch with them. I mean, their teachers have seen them every day, via the internet. But coming back together as a community, how will they be together? A lot of joy, certainly. But what do we do with the heavy stuff that they're bodies as well. Receiving them with compassion. And that's what we do as a Christian community too. How do we, what do we in compassion do to bring others into the circle? Well, we in compassion do whatever it costs us to bring others into the circle of our relationships. Going outside of ourselves in order to have equitable relationships, mutual relationships. I've told this story before, and I think I've told this story before. But it was one of those light bulb moments for me in my own ministry of being with others, suffering with cum passio, Latin, to with and suffer, to suffer with compassion. It was in 1991 when I was hospitalized for depression. And early on in my hospital stay, I determined, of course, that the people I was with were much crazier than I was. And frankly, I didn't like them particularly. I wasn't prepared really to be with others who may have been living on the streets, or others who were dealing with serious addiction and drug use issues. I wasn't prepared to be with people whom I had determined, whom I saw with my superior eyes, people who were beneath me, to be frank. And I would have liked to have been with CEOs and attorneys and people like me. And so I just stayed away from people and just took my drugs and did what I had to do. But I stayed away from people. And at one point in my hospital stay, and it was a long hospital stay in those days, insurance was generous when it came to mental health. But and one of the nurses said to me, she said, I know it's difficult for you to be here. And you are rather, the term she used was high functioning compared to others who might be here. But she said, don't stay away from them. She said, you have the same pain. And then went on to say, you can help heal them. No, she didn't say that. She said, they can help heal you. Later she would come back to say, and you can heal them. But she needed me to hear that they could help heal me because they suffered with me. Whether I recognized it or not, we suffered the same pain, or whether I was willing to admit it. And so I did. I stepped into those relationships. And of course, because she had seen it a million times, as good nurses do, it worked, right? They helped heal me. We had really it was a significant part of my healing was being with those people. To suffer with. And the risk being, or the movement being into relationship. The question, and I'll close with this, the question that we are dealing with in our Ascension Academy move toward racial equity is the question all of us are going to be asking as our whole parish community begins to take on the responsibility of moving deeper into racial equity. But the question is, how do we build a spirit, I'm reading it here, how do we build a spirit and practice of mindfulness encircling justice and anti-racism work to become stronger allies for the communities we serve? How does this become part of our faith journey and daily walk? It's not just another program, this equity stuff, but it's having a new heart to see people, to really see people and know people with compassion, and then being moved into relationship. None of this we do on our own. If we're being asked to love with the heart of Jesus, if we're being asked to love with God's compassion, it's an impossible task, of course, because Jesus' compassion and God's compassion is endless. Ours is not. We get tired and numb and worn out and burnt out and spent. So, as Christians, of course, we believe that the source of our compassion is none other than Jesus himself and his Spirit. The first letter of John tells us that it's not because we love, but that God first loved us. So if we keep going back to the source, we will find the capacity to do what we need to do in compassion. That's the Christian thing, right? I mean, that's when we say, for example, we say in the academy, we give the children a faith-based education, or we're a faith-based organization. It sounds like, institutions speak. But it means that we see faith as the source of everything we do. We're a faith-sourced organization. We're moved to use our gifts on behalf of Jesus himself. So I'll close with this prayer of St. Teresa of Avila, which I used in my homily this past Sunday, but it's worth praying through again. Christ has no body but yours, no hands, no feet on earth but yours. Yours are the eyes with which he looks compassion on this world. Yours are the feet with which he walks to do good. Yours are the hands with which he blesses all the world. Yours are the hands, yours are the feet. Yours are the eyes, you are his body. Christ is no body now but yours, no hands, no feet on earth but yours. Yours are the eyes with which he looks compassion on this world. Christ is no body now on earth but yours. Christ has no body at ascension but yours. Thank you for tuning in. God bless you. Let's grow in compassion together.